Hey, this is Robbie Root Steamer, and you're listening to I Hate This Podcast. Ooh, starring just incredible Jack Stevens on the Wiretap Radio Network.
1,000 rhinos couldn't stop me tonight. It's 5-on-1 if you choose to fight. And if you like the views, my fist will deliver the news. We'll drink in the pit tonight. We'll drink in the pit tonight. Your girlfriend calls me up when you're out of sight. We make love on the floor, it's right. I have dinosaur power in my arms, ready to drop the bomb. We'll drink in the pit tonight. We'll drink in the pit tonight. The girls like my jeans really tight. My body is toned for the fight. When I walk into a room, everybody knows I'm that dude who will drink in the pit tonight. We'll drink in the pit tonight. We can live forever. We'll drink in the pit tonight. We'll drink in the pit tonight. Yo, we'll drink in the pit tonight. 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 Oh, we'll drink in the pit tonight. 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 Come the
All right, guys, welcome to I Hate This Podcast. I'm Jack Stevens, your co-host, joined as always by the ECW hardcore icon, Justin Credible. How you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing great, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, man, I got a surprise for you. Joining us on the line right now, Rob Potylo. How you doing, Rob?
Oh, my God. I'm fantastic. I mean, thank you guys for having me on the air. This is crazy. I mean, I'm from New England, love ECW, love WWF and E. This is wild. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, welcome, dude, and thank you. You're doing big things out in LA, dude. You're a huge success, huge comedian, doing awesome things. I'm a huge fan, actually, and we actually have a connect. Well, we actually have a connection, and I want to get into that because we're both mutual friends of Johnny Lahr, China, the WWE Hall of Famer. It was just inducted this past couple of months, dude, and we just share that in common. And it's just I just want to talk professional wrestling. I want to talk comedy, pop culture, and just have a good time, man. And I'm just I'm so grateful to have you spend a couple of minutes with us here.
Well, same here.
Let's start off with this, Rob. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, what you do, and then we'll move into some other stuff.
Yeah, I'll try without boring people. Basically, I was born and raised in Salem, Massachusetts, New England. I spent my formative years around Salem, Massachusetts. And then around my mid-20s, I decided to become more aggressive about comedy and music. So I fronted a band called the Sweatpant Boners, and I created a character called Robbie Road Steamer. And I was completely blessed to have people around me in the metal scene that were pretty talented. My friend Ken Susi played for this band Unearthed. Another friend, Dave Pino, played for this band Andrew WK. Another friend, through Ken, Adam D, plays for Killswitch Engage.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And so it was pretty surreal. Like, we literally recorded an album together, like me, Adam, Ken, in Western Mass, Springfield, like Zing Records,
Oh, wow.
Zing Studios. And Adam was at the board doing backup vocals. And I had this character pretty much based on heel characters in the late 90s and my dad's Vietnam rage. And I was uncomfortable being myself, anxious, nervous. But when I put on the sunglasses, it was subconscious. I went to all these metal shows around New England and I absorbed that. So I'd literally get on the microphone and be like, Robbie Road Steamer, yeah, New England, take the condom off tonight. 2 pumps, that's what I'm talking about. This next song's called I Put a Baby in You. You know, I thought we had a real metal scene here in Springfield, Fat Cats. You know, who's the headlining band? Blood for Blood. You gotta suck on the 12 dicks of failure, and like I couldn't shut it off. And
Right.
you know, I would play shows, and the shows got bigger and bigger. And then pretty soon, I was in Boston's Radar, the Rock and Roll Rumble, a station in Boston, the Patriots Rock Radio Station, WBCN.
Right. Yeah.
The Rock and Roll Rumble every year.
I'm familiar with them, actually, and you know, and for the fans that like worldwide and people that don't know, there's a huge metal scene in Massachusetts. I mean, some great heavy, local heavy metal bands. Yeah, there's some big time metal bands, and there's a huge, you know what I mean, in that area.
Yeah.
So,
and I was completely blessed to be in the middle of that as a comedian too. And I fronted this metal band. I entered their Rumble, and we did so good. I got pretty much a job on the air on the Patriots radio station. So I moved to Boston, Alston, and I'm just, you know, pretty excited about life. I make it out of my dad's Vietnam rage house, and yeah, I get a job at Fenway Park selling hats. And at night, I'm this character on the radio, you know, like the Patriots radio station. I'm on with Hardy, who is now on Sports Hub, the Patriots radio station. He produces Scott Zolak's show, I think now, the former QB for the Pats. And before us were Toucher and Rich, who are now the morning show for Sports Hub, the Patriots radio station. But we had such a crazy time there. I would show up in costume, fanny pack, like sunglasses, and I would do the total Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton. I'd run through the boardroom being like, you motherfuckers better be working right now. I want sales. I want dirty sales. Make a deal with the devil. And like run into the studio.
Well, but dude, that's one of the things, and I wanted to bring this up. You know, in 2009, you won the Andy Kaufman Award thing for the Caroline Comedy Club, which is pretty fucking cool, dude. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm a huge Andy Kaufman mark too. And yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. It's obvious in my work. I mean, I'm obsessed with him, even beyond Jim Carrey. Sure. The family every year had this competition. Reggie Watts won one year. Christian Schalf won one year. And I was obsessed. And, you know, literally, I have an alter ego like Tony Clifton with Robbie Road Steamer. And the thing about Andy that made him separate, he went all in with Tony Clifton. Tony Clifton liked, you know, Tony Clifton loved blowjobs. Andy didn't. Tony Clifton loved cigarettes and beer. Andy didn't. And I was obsessed. Yeah. And that directly leads to China. That's the direct link because I tried to also go into another year of the Andy Kaufman competition in 2014, and they wouldn't let me into the finals. They wanted to have it at UCB, and they wanted somebody from UCB New York and I was livid because I'm so competitive. And when it didn't happen, I mean, at this point, I'm no longer doing the character. I want to become more of myself. And being more of myself gets me fired from the radio station. Being more of myself makes everybody leave my shows in Boston. I used to have fucking dudes who would show up, and I'm trying to be me playing an acoustic guitar and be like, yo, Bobby, you're not doing the I put a baby in you shit anymore? You're going to be a queer now?
Jesus.
But you're talking Boston, man. That dark, cynical humor. And you got to think about it. The first 10 years of my career, I'm screaming at them like, why'd you bring your fucking bitch here tonight, man? Come on, look at this. Like, seriously, bring her to the New England Aquarium. Why would you bring somebody down to a comedy club? Like, I was a polarizing masshole. And I was all in on it. And so now I want to try to be me, and I'm expecting sympathy from these people.
Right.
I deserved everything on the other end. And I understood that. And I ended up living in a jam space in Cambridge. And I was running pretty much an online radio station there, and helping a lot of musicians like work through projects and giving advice to people who listened to me on the radio. And now we're coming to Cambridge. It was actually like a church, because all these people who were struggling to be creative in New England, you really can't be. It's a mind town when it comes to creativity. You need to go to New York or LA, and it's awful. And if you love the culture there. And I mean, literally for me, I was going nuts. I was washing in a public restroom, and people around me in these metal bands that I used to play with and make the same amount of money, if not a lot more than them, are now like, dude, you're living in a jam space. You're washing in a restroom, Bobby. And literally what happened was, after I didn't get into that Andy Kaufman competition again, I was like, you know what? I'm going to show them that, I have his spirit. I'm like, who managed Andy Kaufman? And I'm like the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, when it came to wrestling, that wrestling side.
Right.
And so I had the guy who ended up trying to shoot the China documentary, put in some money. I put in some money, and we flew the mouth of the South up from Florida. And it was amazing. I shot like a little mockumentary with him. You can see it on YouTube. And
satisfaction, guys.
Yeah. And he introduced my band, and it was the craziest thing. And it was so spiritual. It was so spiritual. Like, it woke up the spirit of wrestling in me. It was pretty wild. Like, I remember being with him in a Trader Joe's parking lot, and it was off of the Charles on the Cambridge side. And I remember just fanboying out on him, being like, dude, I'm the one who got you to fly up here, man. Like, I love you. You wrote half the songs for the wrestlers. You were in the Gentrys. Like, I keep on dancing. And she's like, all right, baby, Robbie, we got a whole day. We don't have to jump into right now, baby.
Well, we got Jimmy Hart on the line.
Dude, but dude, that's so amazing that you say that, because that's like I don't even know how to describe it, but that's what professional wrestling is. Jimmy Hart has been so instrumental in
Jimmy Hart is professional wrestling.
He really is, but especially if you think about it, he's, Memphis territory, and anybody, I worked the Memphis territories back in the 90s, dude.
Oh,
and dude, $40 a night driving from Nashville to Memphis to Louisville, all that stuff. But it does something to you, and it gives you this appreciation. And he really is an icon in so many ways. And he's been so instrumental, because he had that rock and wrestling thing in his head, before anybody else did, before it was like cool to do, like, before it broke out in the, early 80s. So Jimmy Hart, man, I'm glad you mentioned him. And I know he was instrumental in your thing, but wow, that's a powerful name. And, people don't give him enough credit. Nobody ever really talks about Jimmy Hart. You know what I mean? And not only is he like an awesome figure, he's just a badass dude and a great dude. You know, so I'm just again, I wanted you to tell your story. I just wanted to say that because Jimmy Hart, all props to him, dude. He's a badass motherfucker.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, Jesus, to be honest with you guys, like before 2014, the biggest celebrity I met was like Mike Dukakis. You know?
God. But that's a New England thing too, right? The Dukakis are huge, right? I'm a Connecticut boy, Waterbury, Connecticut. So I get
Bristol for myself.
Yeah.
And basically, it was such a spiritual moment that when he went back, the night that we did the show where he introduced my band, it was like the end of a Wes Anderson movie. Dudes were showing up who haven't been to metal shows in years, and like they were cleaning themselves up, and they're like, "Dude, would you get an imposter?" And we had it in December. It was like 12, 13, 14. That's what made it like so cool. We like literally had it, at Christmas time.
Yeah, that's really cool, actually. That's super dope.
He comes out and he gives this great speech. You can actually see it on YouTube. And he's like, "Hey, everybody, I remember coming to the Boston Garden with the Heart Foundation." And it's spiritual. Like dudes who are hockey dads are coming out of the shadows in the back and believing again.
Jimmy Hart has that polarizing. He's just a polarizing person in general. I mean, you get drawn into whenever his mouth goes, you get sucked in, man.
But it was Christmas and he was so spiritual, and he left and we partied for 3 days in Cambridge like gladiators. It was I remember dudes showing up to the jam space and we're filming with him, and they would come up and be like, "Yo, Bobby, tonight I can't make it." "Oh, sir, listen," because he was wearing the jacket, the megaphone.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't. That's a 24-hour gimmick, dude.
I was going to say that's not even a gimmick anymore. That's just Jimmy.
That's just him, yeah. That's
These
great.
dudes with metal bands in our jam space were coming up to him, confessing sins, wanting to wash his feet.
Oh, shit.
I mean, you're talking about passionate metal dudes in Cambridge, the heart of New England, that love wrestling. These dudes were losing it. It was a paradigm shift. And I didn't want it to end. I didn't want it to end. And so the next couple of months after that, I was trying to show people Loud Satisfaction. And I find Joni, and I find her on Twitter. And I see these hilarious videos she's making in Japan. Like she's making smoothies and she's like, "I'm going to try this with some pumpkin now." Mm-hmm. I don't like it with the pumpkin. And it was mine. Like she's a dork. And I fell in love with her watching her at the Liberty Tree Mall in Danvers, Mass. The movie theater, Beyond the Mat. Beyond the Mat. That was mind-blowing for me to see in the movie theater because it gave you the big reveals on Jake the Snake Roberts, Mick Foley's family, China. Even though China's only in it for a couple of minutes, you see her shopping with her sister Kathy, and they're hilarious with each other. They're like, "Oh, what's QVC item number J21? It's this diamond ring."
It showed you a side of her that we never seen. Yeah, and the real Joni, the real China, and absolutely, dude. I agree. That was very powerful. 100%, Rob.
Yeah, and I completely I knew in the movie theater that day I could get along with her so well, and to find out, I had to go through her manager as a liaison that she was in Japan, that nobody had offered anything to her in 3 years. That's what her manager said to me. Quite simply, the reason you got a chance to do a documentary and shoot with her was because nobody else even asked. Nobody even cared.
Wow.
It was the first legitimate offer or semi-legitimate from a guy in a jam space that she had got in 3 years.
That's
and that
crazy.
broke my heart.
Yeah. Let me ask you this real quick, because I didn't know. I didn't know this. I knew Joni. My first and really only experience with Joni was China. We're talking about was when she first came in with Paul Levesque, Triple H, and then I left the company shortly after. I was probably on the road with her, and we traveled together for about a year. We all used to me, Triple H, Joni, and like X-Pac, Sean Waltman. We all used to kind of travel together, but I only had a limited time of about a year when she first was breaking in. So I didn't know any of this. Why do you think that was the deal? Because, as far as not getting offers, because at one point, man, she was probably one of the hottest stars on the planet. Cover of Playboy. And again, that's to be on the cover of Playboy is a big deal. That's like only for like the top of the tops. You know what I mean? That's a hell of a thing, and
twice.
That's amazing. And she really was an amazing professional athlete, not to mention a beautiful, beautiful soul and beautiful looking as well. She was a triple threat in my opinion. And I fell in love with her the first day I met her because with the tough exterior, she was one of the gentlest. And I know for a fact that she went through a lot of hard things in her childhood and some hard times. And it was just, and I admired her. She was just a strong ass woman, a strong ass human being, and just so talented. I just wonder why people weren't coming to, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck did Vince put like the goddamn fucking kibosh on all of that shit, or what was the deal?
Basically, I can get into that, but basically, either way, nobody had even hit her up over there for opportunities in Japan for a while. And through her manager, I was able to start sending her my Robbie Road Steamer videos, and she got it immediately. And she wanted to come back. And the manager's like, we're not looking to do comedy videos. And I'm like, well, what do you need? He's like, well, I'm trying to do this documentary on her. It's called The Reconstruction of China. And it was basically loosely based on the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Anybody could spot that immediately.
Sure.
Basically, I told him, I have a guy who shoots for Ken Burns and Vice. He edits for Ken Burns and he shoots for Vice, ESPN, HBO's Vice series, and he was really talented. And even though he didn't know who China was, I could get him up to code immediately on the story. Like, I could tell how Shakespearean her story was, how incredible the elements that she grew up. I mean, this woman, it's surreal. It's like Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix also had this blistering 5-year career.
Right.
This woman is a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, first woman in the Rumble, first woman to advance in the King of the Ring, first woman in the King of the Ring, first woman to best Vince McMahon in the ring, first time arm wrestling, corporate Rumble. She bests him. And how does that look to women across America? Because she wasn't beautiful or advertised, I should say, by the WWF and E as beautiful at first. If you would listen to the comments, it was, what is that? Who is it?
Right. Yeah.
And that formed, if people didn't already have the opinion of who China was. She was a freak. She was, and that didn't fall on deaf ears with her. I mean, there was a reason why she went nuts trying to reshape her jaw, get the boobs done. I mean, you're under the looking glass, the magnifying glass. That
wow. And dude, I damn, you just that's so powerful, because she would, I mean, there were times where when I spoke to her, and again, I knew her very shortly, like I said, about a year on the road, but she was a girly girl, and I don't mean this like I gotta watch, but she was a very feminine woman. Besides, she looked at, the hard exterior, but deep down, besides the tremendous athlete, she was a very feminine woman, a very beautiful, tender, loving woman. And it was like, and it broke her heart, because when we would go to diners, right, or late nights, we're at the Waffle House or whatever the hell you are in the country, traveling the roads, doing the tours and whatnot. You're in whatever dump, and people are always, she would be the one sticking out, and people would poke fun, and many times, we would get into physical, like not physical necessarily, but like threats, like what the fuck you thought, people would say something, and it's like you'd come to her defense because it would really hurt her feelings, and it broke my heart, because she was such a good girl and had gone through so much, God.
It very much mirrors Janis Joplin and Amy Winehouse in terms of this visceral talent and will. She gets there on pure talent and will. She tries so hard. This woman was abused as a child.
Yes.
Her first father, basically biological father, would feed her sewing needles when he was drunk. Yeah. And this was something I confirmed with the mother at the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And this went on and on. Like he would show up drunk, so drunk, coming back to his house with another woman and forget he was married and had kids.
Oh,
it was brutal. Jesus. And so many stories like that. If you read her wonderful book, If They Only Knew, it's just, this woman is coming from pain and tragedy and hardship already. And she ran to wrestling when she found out she had that skill set, like a family. She needed them so bad. She needed to be able to do something right and not have, if she did it right in a ring in front of a lot of cameras, not have it taken away from her.
Wow, dude, that's just the way you put that, and quite frankly, I mean, I've known about a lot of that stuff and knew a lot of the backstory, but just the way you just eloquently stated that, it's very true, and it's really heartbreaking, because she was, there's a lot of good people and there's a lot of bad people in the world of entertainment. I'm not just going to say pro wrestling, but in the crazy world of entertainment. And she was one of the good ones. She was one of the good ones. And I think she's, I'm glad she's celebrated today, but she was very misunderstood. And I'm just glad you're here to kind of say that, because that's how I feel as well. I think Joni was a very special girl and a trailblazer, to say the least. And, I guess I wish, my biggest regret is I didn't get to say it to her one last time, because the last time, unfortunately, I saw her was in LA. I was actually in LA for just kind of vacationing, and I don't even want to go into it in detail, but we found ourselves in a party spot that we, I wouldn't repeat really publicly, but, and we were both kind of not, acknowledging each other necessarily. And I would just wish I would have hugged her that day and said, I love you, Joni. And, you know what I mean? It's like, you never know when you know what I mean?
I do.
It just breaks my, it just fucks me up, dude, because she's.
Every day it does. Every day it does for me. It absolutely. Yeah. There's no need to apologize or anything. I mean, her spirit weighs on me like a shadow sometimes, because that last final run around America was 10 months.
Oh, wow.
We basically negotiated. She came back from Japan. I met up with her at JFK with the manager, the director, and she had a backpack and I had a backpack, and that was it. We were two outsiders. Yeah. She was an outsider, and that was the thing about her. It's like the Elton John song, Candle in the Wind. She had nobody to cling to when the rain set in. She hit every branch on the way down, because some people, they happen to have good families and friends and a network of people that she's really solid with. She didn't have that. No. She didn't see her biological mother again after the age of 15.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. they kept in touch. But this was a woman on the run, looking for family, looking for her home. And when that home got disrupted, she hit every branch. I mean, that last 10 months, I saw some beautiful moments with her, and I saw some moments that I knew on the inside, even though she was always zen on the outside, were rattling her.
Right. Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking sometimes, because this woman really missed her family in wrestling. She missed the WWE like crazy.
Yeah.
She just missed everybody she met through wrestling like crazy. And because of the wars behind the scenes on both ends,
sure,
she was estranged from that. And there was no way.
Yeah,
it was like a breakup in a relationship that got really brutal, and there was no way you could come with a clean hand back to the table. It was pride and petty, and more pride, petty, and it's just you could see what she was going through, especially during that last month where all bets were off. She was just starting to just break.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in there, and again, I swear to Christ, I don't know really the logistics and what went down, but
yeah.
I do know, because, people all, we all have, we all hear shit, but I don't believe any of it. All I know is that once things started to go sideways because of personal relationships in that company, that it really affected her differently. And I get it because, and I know you're a performer, you're a world traveler, you're a talented musician, comedian, you do it all. When it's kind of like when you miss that something you love, and I'm not even saying the personal relationship to Paul Levesque. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about maybe because of the personal relationship, she kind of got pushed out the door. But the WWE, once that, I think, went for her, that opportunity to perform, express herself, I think, like for me and a lot of others, and I'm not putting myself anywhere near her greatness, I'm just saying, like, I know how I was in my life. Like, once you lose that outlet, it's like, where do you go? And there wasn't a lot going on at those times. Times were a little differently in our business and in the entertainment business than they are today with social media and so forth. So I could see, it just looked like she was hurting and looking, because Again, I'll never forget, man. I was at again, I literally ran into her at a friend's house in East LA. And I was just there visiting, and I didn't know she was coming to this dude's house either. And we just hooked up, and I didn't know Joni. Like, it's like she was like kind of not really present. Like, she was there. She's like, "Hey, PJ, what's up?" But she wasn't. There was the nothing behind the eyes.
Yeah.
And that's like, I kind of knew, and I wasn't in good shape either. I was a mess myself. So I'm not, not calling the kettle black. I was a mess too. But I just say, like, if I was normal at the time, I was like, wow, like, how could I help you? Like, I just wanted to give her a hug, and wanted to, like, just reinforce some positive vibes and try to help, because she really was such a beautiful soul. And it just kills me talking about it. I didn't know we were going to go this deep, but yeah.
On the positive.
Yeah, no, it's just, I love it.
Pretty much single-handedly responsible for campaigning to bring her to the WWE Hall of Fame. How did you get into all that? I mean,
well, when she passed, I mean, it was, I found out 4/20/2016, around 5 or 6 o'clock at night by phone. And, I mean, I ran to a pillow and I cried into it for like, hours. I didn't want people to think I was a monster in the other apartments,
Yeah.
But I had to howl. And my heart was shattered. And for months it was a fog because of the people that were taking over and speaking for her legacy and estate. And, after
people
a while,
that had no business doing so.
Amen. And after a while, I got my legs underneath me again, and I knew everything that she felt about the wrestling, her family and everything. And it was a shadow. It was a shadow on me. And And, you know, I know deep down inside that our big campaign when she got back to America wasn't the documentary. It was her. It was her making good with the WWE again, or just her family, just people that she could connect on a deep level that could understand what she was going through. And so for me, yeah, exactly. And so for me, I got in touch with her mother and we connected immediately. And most of our notes matched up on her manager and everything. And I basically said, can I take over Joni's social nets? And she said yes. And then she put me in charge of the Facebook and the Twitter. Somebody deleted her Instagram. And, you know, we worked with what we had. And me and Joni, we connected a lot when we traveled cross country because I'm from Massachusetts and I'm sort of a geek about the Kennedys. And I started impersonating Robert Kennedy, and I would play her like live audio on YouTube of Robert and his mother Rose on the campaign trail in '68. And then Joni loved it so much, she started impersonating Rose, and she'd be like, I'd like to introduce you to my seventh child, Mr. Robert Francis Kennedy. And then I would impersonate Robert and be like, I'd like to thank Mother for the kind introduction. And we got a big hoot out of it. And I felt like it was a campaign. I knew exactly what she wanted, what her spirit wanted. And I felt like it was a campaign not to just get her into the Hall of Fame, but to help the WWE understand who's now, you know, running the estate and who they can talk to at least. Yeah. Because a large part of why she did not go into the Hall of Fame in her lifetime was because of the elements around her too. Sure. They were not wrestling fans, and they were trying to make her bigger than them all the time for their own reality TV. And, you know, for me, I quickly wanted to establish that we were all about shining a light on this fantastic legacy. So many people can be inspired by her. Women that were on the outside. I would go to Comic-Cons with her and I would be her chaperone and take money and take photos. And I remember girls coming up to her, women that were cutters, and they had scars all over their arms. And then they'd look at her arms, and her arms were all scarred up because she tried to kill herself in Japan. She did a suicide attempt over there. She used a knife, and then she got the Japanese police to show up, and they don't have guns in Japan, so they couldn't shoot her. And that's what she thought would happen.
Right. And, wow.
But her arms were just so cut up. And when you know, people would see this, you know, men and women that were cutters themselves, there would be so many moments where you would see her, you know, just get away from the crowd with somebody and just, you know, Yeah, it's pretty brutal because I can flash back to it. And you just see the people in their the energy in their eyes, like, oh my God, she understands. She's not just, you know, trying to make a wish moment. She's like completely in the trenches with me. Like, this woman has the same disease in her head that I have in my head. We're not perfect, and she would always reveal that other side if somebody needed to see that.
Listen, and it's one thing I did, and we've never really spoke, but I deal with addiction and depression, clinical depression, and that's been something that's I've dealt with that my whole life as well, and I've had points of suicidal thoughts and stuff
I watched
like
the
that.
trailer.
Yeah, and
your trailer, and it was very brave, and it's such a move in the right direction to have that reveal. There's no reason not to. There's no reason.
Well, brother, you know, and my whole thing, you know, what got me was when I was in treatment for alcohol in summer of 2017, and I heard when I went to WWE, was kind enough to bring me to Tampa, Florida, to a nice facility down there, but I heard that Chester Bennington had killed himself from Lincoln Park, the great Chester Bennington, one of, voice of a generation. And when I heard that, dude, I was like, holy shit. It's like, because we always sometimes, I don't know if anybody out there listening or whoever's listening, but you always think like maybe it's just me, like maybe I'm just the only one, and we feel somehow isolated, and and I guess there's maybe not enough awareness of how we're supposed to feel. I know my daughter has suffered through some of these things, and I have 3 beautiful children that suffer with, not all of them, but a couple of them suffer with depression, and I just I'd always say, like, tell, you know what I mean? Because I've always was so embarrassed, especially, and I know Joni, I know because I've had a conversation, one distinct conversation I had with Joni was especially in those days, in the, when I knew her was like 95 through 97, wrestling was still that tough person industry, and you're not supposed to say how you feel. You're supposed to, what they quote unquote no sell. Right. So, shit ain't getting to you. So, sell it. And that's really, so you bottle that shit up, and all you do is take more pills and drink more booze and whatever it takes to get you through the next day, and, it's just, I think, awareness. And I'm so glad you said that, and I just wanted to say it to, to people out there listening too, because I've suffered with that myself, and I continue. It's a daily struggle that it's important to just say, it's okay. It's okay to, to have those feelings, and, it's important to have awareness. I guess that's, my long-winded thing is it's cool to kind of say, like, we're here too, kind of, you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's very echoing and spiritual, and it was not long-winded, but I battled with it too. After Joni died, I tried to kill myself, and I ended up going to an emergency room and signing up for Medi-Cal in California so I could get a physical. And I found out through my physical, this is my battle, my kidney disease had advanced. I have polycystic kidney disease. It's in stage 3, stage 4 being dialysis. My mom died of it. My grandmother died of it. Tore my family in 2. Always been on the run. And, that was a lot of weight for me on top of losing her. And I think that's what was really, that was in 2017. And, I got very much, I felt like a campaign about the Hall of Fame campaign. I felt like Bobby Kennedy in like 68, like that 80-day run he did running for president.
Right.
And we made this hashtag, Let China In, and I knew the right videos to drop at the right time, nearer when they were going to think about it, especially one I filmed of her 2 months before she passed, where she's talking to the camera about making atonement because she missed her brothers and sisters. And I talked to her about that because her manager's like, we're going to make this the WWE Hall of Fame campaign. We're going to get everybody to say it on camera. Mike Tyson, we're going to get Coolio. He'd get his clients to say it and stuff. And, for me, I'm like, China, you miss your brothers and sisters. Some of these people won't even come up to you at the damn shows because they're afraid. They don't know what's going to happen if they're open and comfortable talking to you because they don't know what ground you stand on. They don't want to be blacklisted or something. They're scared. And that's, I would see that at shows sometimes where wrestlers wouldn't even feel comfortable talking on camera about letting China into the Hall of Fame because they knew it was such a loaded question.
Yeah.
And for me, when we got really rolling with it, I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'd deal with her fans. I still do in terms of some of the crazier ones. Some, have put her on a pedestal. I have, she's been like a guru for me and like a teacher and a master. But it would be walking every morning into another storm. But I could handle it after a while because it became something for me dealing with my kidney disease and depression on my own front.
Right.
You know, it was like waking up and being able to go to church immediately because she was a best friend. And I knew inside and out what her spirit wanted. The last time I talked to her was a week before she passed. We had a 2-hour phone call and she was just crying like, why isn't anybody fighting for me? You know, she was just so shocked at everybody, you know, near the end, just like, it's just all these relationships around her were falling apart before her eyes. And yeah, I mean, it weighed heavy on me. And when we finally got that phone call from the WWE that she was going in, and the initial news, I mean, just finding out and stuff, like, wow, it just was incredible. I mean, I felt like I won the World Series. I mean, it just felt like a big ball of relief because
I'm happy it happened, but it was just, I you know, like I said, I'm happy it happened, definitely, but I think it was overdue, like way overdue. Well, there should have been no question.
Well, you know what I think is going to happen, Rob, and I really wanted to interject. I just wanted to have you get it out. But I really think that Joni will get her moment, not with DX. She will get her single moment in the Hall of Fame. She'll be a 2-timer because she really was, you know, we always talk about trail, you know, they throw that word around, trailblazers. She truly was a trailblazer. And I really think that in the next upcoming years, or year or 2 or 3, that she really will be inducted solely into the Hall of Fame because she's that important to not just entertainment or pro wrestling entertainment, but entertainment in general. She was an icon, and you know, all the way around, dude. So and that's my belief, and I wanted to say that too because it means so much. People, dude, I really believe that she will get her own bid, not with a faction, not with like no, she'll get it on her name. Joni Laurer will be in the Hall of Fame. Mark my words, dude. I really believe that because, you know, it would be hypocritical and it would be hard to have a Hall of Fame without that woman in there. But my opinion, you know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. I mean, she has done so much to push the language forward. She was from the future. You know, I'm in Southern California and I go to wrestling around here. I go to bar wrestling and it's all intergender. And the women are holding their own and I love it. You know, going up against 6'6", 300-pound dudes and spinning them around like tops. And I absolutely love it because we got such a tease of that with Joni. And we actually got a tease of that recently with Nia Jax. And they wouldn't let that storyline play through with Dean Ambrose. And everybody was screaming for it online because it's the future. Because at least in sports entertainment, we can have equality. We can have
it's entertainment, right?
Yes.
That's Vince's big thing is entertainment. So you already know that right out the gate, it's not a sport. It's sports entertainment. So there is no reason why they can't have the intergender thing. They try to do the mixed match challenge, you know, but then it's a tease because they won't let them really go after each other. You know, they'll let the girls slap the guys or whatever, but that's about it.
The best story right now would be Becky 3 belts. You know, if you threw her, I'm
give her the IC title.
I'm serious. No, I'm not talking about
Let's
that.
Hear it. Let's hear it.
You know, let her go up against her partner there, Seth. Let her go up against, I mean, do something people have not even seen before. Blow their minds. Even if it turns out she taps out in 10 seconds or whatnot. Like these storylines that can get that people can get into with the mixed tag teams. You could see that, like the beautiful, complicated relationship with Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
I loved watching that. And
it was very entertaining.
Yeah. And when I go to like Lucha Underground or bar wrestling, it feels like being in England in '66 because you have these gorgeous lady warriors, just dominating fellas in the ring. And I love it. And here's the big difference then, New England, what I found with the fan base and stuff. It's dorks and dreamers and weirdos that are going to these shows, where in the 90s and late 90s, when I was going to wrestling events, it was gassed up hockey dads waiting to fight you.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And I couldn't even go out to an event here until a lady friend invited me, who was repping another wrestler at an event I was repping China at. She was repping Macho Man's brother, Leaping Lanny Poffo, who I fanboyed out. I just fanboy out on everybody. I just love them. Like Kate Hudson's character in Almost Famous. Like,
yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, dude. That's great. That's funny.
I do. Even like Greg the Hammer Valentine, like I ran up to him, like Kate Hudson. I'm just like, I just want to tell you, when you had your feud with Rugged Ronnie Garvin about the figure four and who was the master of it, and like for a second, it's like, is this guy putting me on? Is he like just doing and I'm like, I loved it. You were one of the first wrestlers I saw being interviewed on Saturday afternoon with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the Dream Team. And that's what made me fall for wrestling. That was the first thing I ever saw from wrestling, was Mean Gene interviewing him and Brutus the Barber in like 86 or something.
Yeah, and that's me too, because we're very similar. I think, I believe, I might be throwing a curveball, but you were born in 76. Am I wrong?
Yep.
Okay. No, all right. I'm 73. So we kind of, we grew up around the same time. So it's the thing. It's like professional wrestling, although it is entertainment, we know it's scripted. We know it's what it is. But for young kids and for anybody that gets wrapped up, especially in childhood, it meant the world to us. It's like, for young guys to watch these people, these amazing athletes, men and women, competing, or whatever you want to call it, performing in this battlefield. It opens up your imagination, right? You're a kid. You're like, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Wars, and professional wrestling. And it just captures your imagination. So what this does is pop culture kind of, we tend to idolize these people because they were such an integral part of maybe a childhood memory, or, this lasting impression of what this should be or that should be. So I think that's super cool. And I think it rings true in anybody. Look, for me, in 1989, I lived in Waterbury, Connecticut, right? And we're talking about the 80s. And we didn't have cable television. So I literally went to a cousin's house on a Saturday, family member, and they had WTBS. They had cable television. We only had, the rabbit ear gimmick. So we had ABC, NBC, all that shit. So I went to their house, but they had cable and they had TBS. And TBS was Ted Turner. And in 1980, I think it was 87 or 88, I got to, on a Saturday night, got to watch my first edition of NWA, world-class champion, like world-class wrestling.
Yeah.
I got to see the Nature Boy for the first time. And it was like, all I knew was Hulk Hogan. And then all of a sudden I see Ric Flair and the Horsemen and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is really? And that was the moment that I dedicated my entire life. And maybe I should have never watched that program, because maybe my life would be different, but neither here nor there. But anyways, that's what made me be so passionate about that crazy business. And it was infectious, and it's something undeniable. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. It's the improv of comedy. And what I mean by that is, in professional wrestling, we go we're in a different town every night, and every town reacts differently. So we're really improvisational actors, because what I do in Philadelphia doesn't work in LA, and what I do doesn't work in Dallas, Texas, for different, so you're always improving. So you learn improvisation, and you learn some of the finer stuff. And it's just, man, it's just a mixture of entertainment on every level. With music, with even comedy and timing, and obviously the physical prowess. It's just such a cool thing. And I never thought it was cool because I obviously wasn't. I wasn't popular in high school. I was kind of a nerd, blah, blah, blah. But with wrestling, I kind of, with wrestling, though, I kind of got to be that guy not that I wanted to be, but that I thought I never could be,
Yeah.
Because anybody that knows me, and Jax knows me.
Just Incredible is this mean, nasty, tear your head off, kick your ass, take your girlfriend kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And then there's PJ, who is like, oh, your socks are wet. Here, take mine. Like,
right. I'm the most giving person and kind person. Like, I'm nothing like, and people get shocked, when I say that. But it's true. I will give you the shirt off my back. I'm a kind human being, but I guess that's like that guy. Like it's like that polar opposite, and it gives you that creative juice to become something you really erratically are not. I'm not a tough guy. I've never been in a real fist fight in my entire life. I'm 45 years old. Never been in a fist fight, but Just Incredible. The character is, will rip your heart out, and that's
and it's
the furthest thing for me,
Yeah, it's very much like an artist. And for an artist, you can be an outsider or you can be a nerd. And if you roll up your sleeves and you work your ass off and you can show up on time and you can do your job, literally you can reap the rewards of your dreams from the outside.
Absolutely.
You don't know people. You weren't connected. You weren't born on the right side of the tracks. But if you still know how to roll up your sleeves, get the work done, be humble, show up on time, take the hits. If you can do that, you can be Thor for a second. You can throw the lightning bolt. You can be Zeus, I should say. You can throw the lightning bolt. You don't have to be Zeus for the rest of your life. And that's the tricky part, once these people become their characters and, rock stars, you see it, the line gets blurred. People are attracted to the character and then you become. But if you're still that child at heart, you have that spirit, you can will that and you learn how to. And it's not just a one-time thing if you evolve it. Especially, I'm saying the word artist, because that was the thing with Joni. China was, a large part of what I loved about her those last 10 months was working with her comedically, was helping her process pain through comedy. We would talk about, I would do impressions of Hunter from MTV, So You Want to Be a Wrestler and stuff, and she would crack up and would help her start talking about things. And then we would think of a funny idea and we could film a video. And you could see the therapy of art. And a lot of wrestlers are artists, they're creative types. All of them are. If you're willing to express yourself like that, you have that in your heart. And if you're able to start opening up the more vulnerable side, writing a serious song, talking about your pain in front of a camera and showing people your guts and your intestines, that will evolve you as much as doing meditation, going to church. Art is spiritual. And what I found with China was, after a couple of months, she was becoming more and more dorky and down to earth, and she could have more fun at the Comic-Cons. This was juxtaposition between the other side of it, where she was put on a crazy Comic-Con tour where she needed rehab and enabled in a lot of ways, and was going into more of her diva dark side. And to me, 99% of the time, I saw her as this dork, this woman of imagination that wanted to still use all that passion, all that energy that had built up inside of her like an H-bomb and put it onto something. And she didn't have anything to put it onto anymore. She wanted to put it into wrestling again. And she just, it's heartbreaking, but the side of it of becoming more expressive with what you're going through, and even in the ring, that's an art form. And I think if more wrestlers, especially if they've been through a lot mentally, write it into a poem, blog. If you can't say it in front of a camera yet, what's going through your head, figure out other ways to express that pain so it doesn't go inward. Because if you're not sending that pain outward, it's going right back inside into you like a dagger.
Yeah.
Then you take it out on yourself because you're your own shrink. You're giving yourself the worst advice on earth. You're not having the circuit of people you need around you. I mean, I'm saying this with so much passion because, I don't have a car. I'm still transient. I rely on the kindness of strangers. I work at Whole Foods. Today I pushed a shopping cart all around, and I work for Amazon at Whole Foods. So I shop for online shoppers. I don't shop for people at Whole Foods.
At least you have something to do with that job. You know what I mean? Because it's better than just standing at the register, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm blessed to be able to work. It's just the fact of it is, if I'm not incorporated by anybody, I'm going to fall off the edge. There's nothing for me, and that's what happened to Joni.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the most positive thing. And I'll be honest. I'll be dead honest. I'm trying to do the same thing. Wrestling doesn't pay my bills anymore. It used to, but it doesn't. I'm fortunate enough for the next 6 weeks. I have 6 straight weeks of bookings, but I'm looking for work, dude. It's just about pushing. It's about going forward. It's about just, sometimes we get caught up, in the perception of what it is to be famous, what it is to mean, what this existence means. We really get wrapped up in bullshit. And the bottom line is I just care about my family, providing for my family, however I have to, but also how am I feeling and how am I doing on the inside? Because you know what, and when you don't feel good on the inside, you ain't doing shit on the outside. And unfortunately, sometimes money becomes an issue, but sometimes in those moments is when we push the hardest, and that's when our biggest breakthroughs happen. Is when we are a little, not, I shouldn't say desperate, but when we're down and out and trying to struggle. That's when we're like animals. We're scratching at the surface, trying to figure out a way, and we do. And you're an amazing comedian, amazing talent. I did a full day of research on you, brother. I did. I watched all your YouTube videos and I watched your series, which was absolutely cool. And, so seriously, I really did my homework because I thought I knew this was going to be a very powerful podcast, and I'm grateful. And I want to thank you for having us on, or being on here. And, but I wanted to be prepared. And, you're a badass motherfucker, dude. You're really you're a great dude, and I love what you do, man.
Well, I appreciated it. I mean, I
mean that from the bottom of my heart, dude. Bottom of my heart, and we had that connection. That's why I felt too that because even though again I was not as close to Joni as you are, obviously, but I did know Joni through the very early formative years when she first came into the WWF. So to me, it was kind of like a cool connection where we could, at least talk about those special times, because I did know her, when she was young in the business, and she was just a sweet kid. And off the air, I could tell you so many cool stories, of all the fun stuff we did, and again, this was like this was like China 96 kind of thing. And she was just a sweet girl. She was a bodybuilder from, around New England, and,
she traveled around and
wasn't she? Yeah. What didn't she live in she wasn't it Mexico City, I believe.
All over the world she traveled.
Yeah, she was like a nut. Yeah, she traveled so well traveled and all over
because
the world.
Her dad, her biological dad, on top of being a drunk, was apparently a hustler, to put it lightly. And he would bring her all around the world to help him on his hustles. The reason she went to the University of Tampa to get a degree in Spanish literature was, in her words, to be able to rip off people in Spanish literature contracts. Her dad had her go there. Her dad wanted her to be an FBI agent, and her dad was grooming her to be the sort of hustler, the same one who, yes, fed her sewing needles when he was blackout drunk. And yeah, so I mean, she was just such a rare breed. And when you realize, if you've been around her, you know, how many dishes she needed to spin just to get where she was, it really, I mean, for me, it changed my whole life. Like, I did this job, but I'd wake up in the morning and I work on China social nets or anything else, you know, talking to her mother, trying to figure out what would be the next best step to shine a light on her legacy. And a lot of that was being inspired by her work ethic. You know, just seeing in the times that we traveled across the country and she'd be hitting Opie and Jimmy and waking up at like 1 hour sleep sometimes and hitting PMZ in New York and these Comic-Cons. And she'd be going at the speed of sound while we're trying to figure out her social nets and her bank accounts. And she was always locked in. She was never stressing out. The men were arguing left and right around her, and she was peaceful. When she got back, she looked like a yoga instructor. She was not a bodybuilder at that point. She looked like a beautiful 45-year-old yoga instructor. And all she wanted to do was hot yoga, make some beautiful smoothies, go with me to Wee Man's Chronic Taco, and make funny videos. That's all.
And dude, but that makes so much sense, because that's who she was. That's who she was, dude.
Such a dork. I mean, we watch BoJack Horseman. We chase each other around the house. We talk about New England all the time. We do impressions of each other's like favorite wrestlers and whatnot. It was just too much fun. It really tore me apart when I lost her. And seriously, I have to be honest, that Hall of Fame weekend was, if not the best day of my life, top 2. It's just right there, because I felt her spirit that whole weekend, especially during the ceremony, and meeting so many of her brothers and sisters that were in the trenches with her. I could understand that's why she wanted to come home. Right. They were all in a way dorks and insecure, and they still had, I mean, even when talking about her with me in limited conversations, you could see the vulnerability and the fact of how deep she really resounded with people. Yeah. And it was just such a gift to be there at the ceremony and hear 13,000 people at the Barclays Center chanting her name. Yeah. It was just, and watching her mom be, you know, absorb that, and her sister. It was just, it was so spiritual. Were you there?
I was in the audience.
Because at one point, if I'm not hallucinating, I remember during Sean Waltman's speech, some dude stood up and he's like, "Sean, Just Incredible's right here."
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I remember how humbled and almost, you know, embarrassed you were, and I felt bad. I'm like, God, this guy.
That had to be Doug.
It was Doug. Yeah, it wasn't obvious, dude. I was hiding. I don't do that.
Yeah. No, dude. Listen, I read quickly eyes and everything. I was sitting. Oh my God, I was sitting right next to the Riot Squad in front of Farouk and the Godfather. It was like a Wes Anderson movie. And like I look over, and notice that, and I got to tell you, afterwards, I was up in Sean's hotel room and we were just talking about Joni, and I'm like, "Did you know that Just Incredible was there tonight?" He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, like during your speech, some dude was like pointing to him, and it's like, "Sean," and he started smiling and laughing, and oh man, that whole weekend was just nonstop.
It was a trip. Again, I'm very, dude. My whole thing is, and a lot of my career, because when I was there, I wasn't. Look, my biggest claim to fame was, or when I was at my highest, you know, whatever creative thing, was in ECW. And And I guess a lot of times with the other stuff, I'm a fly on the wall. Although I was there, I wasn't critically, you know how it is with critical acclaim, right? And wrestling is no different. Even though I was in the trenches, necessarily I wasn't critically acknowledged. So like,
Man, you were just God with that kendo stick and me watching late night ECW in like Salem, Massachusetts. ECW.
No, that helped make my career, and that was super cool. But like again, like fans, sometimes guys are just like they put that shit out there. So I was actually really embarrassed, and I was just happy for Sean. I was happy for Sean, and I was really happy for Joni. But like I said, I honestly think she will get her own moment because WWE is really cognizant and aware of what she meant. And again, I know, and I'm not going to get into and now more so than ever, exactly, Jax. But I don't want to get into the political stuff. But there's no way that she does not get a nomination on her own, not just part of DX. She's going to go in. Very soon on her own merit. And again, it's just my personal opinion. And but it was a cool weekend. It was surreal. And
I'll just say this, what I'm taking out of that too is, man, you are critically acclaimed. You're an idol to me, man. Like, it blew my mind being like an outsider up in like New England and seeing this badass Saturday nights on television in jean shorts with a kendo stick that looked very much like all my friends around me near Salem, Massachusetts. And like doing it on the biggest alternative arena, which I don't know if you're a fan of music, usually those musicians are the ones people prefer a lot of time when you're talking about critical acclaim.
That's my style of music, brother. That's the kind of thing the Nirvanas, the Pearl Jams,
that's who you guys are. And that's the thing of it. When you're sort of, saying, oh, well, these guys out there, they're whatever you're perceiving them high or low before you, I'm completely like, are you fucking kidding me? Like ECW is everything. It was the true alternative. And anybody that is forever permanently etched in that's like playing baseball in the 20s. That is a platinum period. And I know that maybe you might look at so-and-so or somebody else and say, but like as soon as I saw you in the crowd, I'm like, oh my effing head, that is Justin. like I had to tell it to Sean afterwards because it left such an impression because I could read your body language and read the humbleness. And seriously, man, like that stage is yours always too. There should never be that sort of, what's up and what's down, because seriously, to me, oh my head, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, you nailed it.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. But I you never think. I guess it's sometimes we never realize what we really do sometimes. And I never want to take myself too seriously. I'm very humble, and I just appreciate. I'm just a fan that I appreciate. What goes on. So again, that's awesome, and I'm glad in some way. Of course, I'm glad it resonates because that was if I could be known for something, and that would be a great thing. I'm humble and I'm grateful that you said that because it does mean a lot. And I will actually sleep better tonight that you said that because I know that it means something to somebody.
Ego for a little bit.
No, but it's it's reality, Jax. It's like
I know it is. I know
in this. And Rob,
PJ. Being your own witness to that, being your own witness to the fact that you are that to people, that you don't need to answer to anybody ever fucking again. You don't. And I know the tortures you put yourself sometimes through in your head, and you have to run through that war sometimes, and there's triggers and whatnot, man. But you got to know you survived. Your shit is gold. And when you strive and when you fight and when over time you go through the battles, you get wisdom. That's the only thing we get throughout this whole bullshit. It was we become a little smarter. We're always becoming. And there's somebody that needs to hear you now that sounds just like me that is going to be like, oh my God, that's Justin too. And you're going to say, listen, I've been through all this shit and stuff. And, I'm PJ Kid, sit down and stuff. But You know, and that's what it's about. If China survived, if Joni survived, all the women right now that would be lighting up like a Roman candle and inspired if she had one last Goldberg run.
Man.
It would have been incredible.
That would have been amazing.
But she already was there permanently. And in that arena in Brooklyn that night, everybody, and the next day at the MetLife Center, you know, when 80,000 people were going nuts when they showed her on the Titantron and whatnot. You know, she's forever. She's forever up there.
Yeah. Absolutely, she is. She's there forever, and that's a great terminology, dude. She's ingrained in our hearts forever, and that's without a doubt. And quite frankly, it's an understatement, because I think she means a lot more to a lot of people than just that. Not just the WWE, but just the universe in general. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I couldn't say it any better than you did. You said it perfectly.
Whether it's this podcast, when we talk about it, her story is going to be told. And not just the wrestling side, but that inspirational side that people who are on the outside, freaks. Exactly. People who don't think they have a chance in hell. People who already make judgments. When they learn all the layers of this woman, whether it be through this wonderful podcast, whether it be through a book or anything, that's why those people need to survive, because you guys tell your stories the best. And right now in this world where people are fighting to see, I mean, just for real, they're looking for realized beings. You people are effing Navy SEAL gladiators. Like, you people, seriously, the amount of inspiration you provide to outsiders and freaks, whether back in the day, whether now, the disenchanted, the people they don't think have a chance in hell. You know, I mean, that's what wrestling was for me. And that's an art form that makes them no different than a comedian, as a musician, as a Cobain that can show me, hey, I'm just as screwed up as you are, but I can straighten out my eye, you know, my heart chakra, and I can make fabulous art.
Dude, that's so powerful. Rob, you just probably, that's probably going to be my favorite line on the podcast ever. That was probably the most powerful thing anybody's ever said to me. And that's a shoot. That's really true. And that's so fucking deep. And God, I'm just glad, dude. Again, we're going to wrap this up, dude, but I'm just so grateful. I'm emotional right now. You really brought, dude, you brought so much of this conversation was so important and so deep to me as well. You're such an insightful dude. Is there anything you want to plug, dude? Please, anything going on that, you know, obviously we got your back supporting you. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, two things. One, you know, if you want to find me, type hot dogs and applesauce anywhere. Two, if anybody deserves to be in the Hall of Fame next year, please let's fight for Davey Boy Smith. I met his wonderful daughter, Georgia Smith, at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and Harry, and I love that family. So if I was to just campaign or start campaigning for somebody for next year, oh my head, the British Bulldogs together. Let's get that.
Your girlfriend calls me up when you're out of sight. We make love on the floor. It's right. I have dinosaur power in my arms, ready to drop the bomb. We'll drink in the pit tonight. We'll drink in the pit tonight. The girls like my jeans really tight. My body is towed for the fight.
All right, guys, that wraps up another week of I Hate This podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's guest, Rob Potylo. Make sure to check him out on Twitter at Quiet Cry, or look him up on YouTube, Hot Dogs and Applesauce. You'll laugh your ass off. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at I Hate This Pod. That's PODS. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheJackStevens, and you can follow Just Incredible at PJ Palaco across all social media platforms. Don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and leave your social media handle in the comment for your chance at winning an I Hate This Podcast t-shirt. If you don't want to wait to win it, you can buy yours now at ProWrestlingTees.com/JustIncredible. We'll see you next week.
Tonight.